Okay, so today begins our unit review. This video is intended to help you review some of your notes, refresh your memory of some of the things that we did previously, and to just in general get you ready for the summative task that's going to be coming later in the week. So I'd like you to please turn to your cover divider page in your math journal. It should be the bright blue one. Your statement of inquiry might look slightly different. This one is an older version, but basically this is just the beginning of this unit. Okay, so at any point in this review, I recommend that you pause the video and read your notes in detail if you need to do so. Also, you might want to review any practice problems that you have next to those guided notes to just review some of the steps that you've done previously, okay? All right, so let's begin. So we have here our first set of guided notes on ratios. So we went over the different ways that you write a ratio, the definition of a ratio, and then an example of how you might use a ratio or solve ratio problems. So that's the first guided notes. All right, the next one we have is representing ratios. And this was more deliberate in giving you some strategies of how you might solve some ratio problems or proportional relationships. So we went over tape diagrams, double number lines, a ratio table, and then of course, how to set it up as an equation. So we here have an algebraic equation and then also a proportional relationship equation. So either way to solve. So you might want to pause the video here while you look at some of those practice problems that we did along with those. All right, and then we went into unit rates. So we remember that a rate is a very special ratio where the quantity is comparing to a unit of one. So two different units are used, and then one of them is always a one. So you can have the unit rate for the price of something, you can have a unit rate for the speed of something, and then you can have a unit rate for quantities of values. And so then you would then convert them to be whatever their price is per one, or the hours traveled per one, or the distance, traveled per 1 hour, or the number of this one unit, in this case, ice cream cones per gallon. So it looks like this. A special unit rate that is of particular interest are these formulas over here. So remember, speed equals distance over time, and then pace equals time over distance. You might need to use those for your summative. All right, and then we went into proportions. So how to solve proportions. So if you recall, the setup is one of the most important parts of a proportion. So if you have a scenario like this, how are you going to set it up? So you know it's something over something is equivalent to something over something. And then you would have your X value be whichever one of those four pieces is unknown. And then we went through 3 different strategies for how to solve. So finding the relationship within the fractional part on one side, finding the relationship between, so going across that equal sign, and then lastly, using cross multiplication or cross products, so that also known as the butterfly method to solve. All right, and then we went into graphing proportional relationships. Now, for this skill, all you really need to be able to do is take a ratio table and be able to plot it in a graph. So the x-axis being the input of the table, the y-axis being the output of the table. Now, I know we showed you a little bit of this, of how to set it up as an equation. So using the constant of proportionality, finding the slope of the line, the rise over the run. But this was really just a preview for algebra. And the algebraic content. If this is still something that's shaky for you, don't worry about it. It was, like I said, it was just a little bit of a preview of a more advanced topic, okay? Okay, and then we had all the different strategies of finding the part, whole, or the percent. Of course, so first it was setting it up as a table, so understanding that the percentage is always out of a whole, and then you might have the missing part, and if the given the whole, how would you solve that or find that? And then we went over how to use a bar model, which then transfers into mental arithmetic of how to find the percentage of a number mentally. And then we have some more written strategies where you would use the percent equation, or the percent proportion, depending on the problem and whichever method you prefer. So, and then we got a little bit more advanced where we were solving for maybe the percent was unknown and they give you the part and the whole and you solve for that. Or maybe the whole was unknown and then you solve when they give you the percent and the part. So there's different combinations there. And then lastly, the last bit was we were then taking all of those percentage strategies and applying it to some real world context, particularly money. So how do you calculate discount? How do you calculate tax? How might you calculate tip? And then in what order do you need to do it if you have a combination of those? Okay, so for some of these more complicated discounts, tax, tip, all that stuff, feel free to use a calculator for those types of computations. For example, if your tax is, 7.25%, use a calculator, it's fine. Or if you want to calculate, an 18% tip on top of some discount and tax with combinations of things, totally appropriate to use a calculator for some of those. Okay, so those are all of the big areas that we covered for this unit. Oh, I know it seems like a lot now when you go back this way, but hopefully that refreshes your memory and you're all ready to start your study guide for the next couple days. Okay, so if you have any questions or you need help or anything that you need, join me for office hours. I'm happy to help you.